Hey, yo, what's up? Peace, family. So this is one of the first videos for kind of like a mini series of videos that I'm going to do, and they are going to be called uh, Scrolls of Truth, and basically just kind of giving an insight on past and history of understanding um, what can potentially be present today in our current society. So first topic I like to talk about is uh, natural disasters, right? And this whole topic today is how societies collapse, okay? And we'll start with, like I said, natural disasters, because that's first and foremost, right? Natural disasters is something that's uncontrollable. That's really the decision of Mother Earth, right? Mother Earth and Father Son, because there's no um, dollar amount, there's no uh, uh, tech that you could use. Um, there's none of that when it comes to natural disasters, and we've seen it throughout this country, in a lot of different states. Like Kansas City, Missouri, all of the kind of like the dirt field states, that, does all the farming and stuff like that. They typically always have tornadoes and things like that where it just kind of rips everything to shreds, your house, the cars, everything like that. Then you got more tropical places like Miami. Miami has these massive hurricanes, different category numbers that goes up, and just like I said, just rips things apart. And you can't leave out California here. I'm in California. Um, when you talk about earthquakes and fires and things like that. Now the fires, I believe that was coerced. But earthquakes, things like that, you have real no control of, and that's why I put natural disasters first, man. Like I said, you know, y- those things you just can't do much about. Now, when we go ahead and we roll into war and invasions and things like that, so um, you got to think about countries like China and Russia. You know what I mean? They typically have this relationship, with us that it always seems like you know, they're listening, they're cool, but at some point, you know, they may get tired, man. You never know, man. They may get tired, and they may want to join forces with Russia, and all of those, brick laws and all of that, man. All of that stuff don't matter. When it comes time to want to go and take over what you want to take over, that'll happen. It's been done before. Rome, Greece, Persia. When it's time to try to invade and take over shit, it don't, none of that stuff matters. It's about who you with, who's gonna roll with you, and can we get this done, right? And I look at China and Russia as one of those two dogs that could stick together and really give this country some issues. You know what I'm saying? So those type of situations are very noticeable when it comes to wars and invasions. Then you got internal wars. Internal wars, you got things like civil wars in between the states. You got rebellions. You have just constant conflict, throughout the country. You know what I'm saying? And I really don't see civil war being out of the question, because I've already seen so many different nuances where people get really tired of the way things are, and they notice that voting and all of the politics and shit really doesn't help especially here in this country, like, you can vote your ass off, but that does not mean that, those specific things are going to change or have any type of uh a situation switch at all. You could just keep voting. Like, my parents, my grandparents, all they did was go to the voting box. You know what I'm saying? And they just vote, 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 vote. And none of that shit matters. You know what I'm saying? Because everything is always politically controlled through the elites and the oligarchs. And then you talk about military overstretch. Okay, military overstretch is simply something where, you know, the military is like how we have, the US, and we go out and, we dealing with this country, dealing with that country, making sure this country isn't doing this and this country isn't doing that. Now, the reason why that, we can go ahead and we can, kind of distribute what we want to be done in all these other global economies is that we have a really big military. But at the same time, you when you go out there, they're looking for you as aid. So if you got, if you're an ally for these other different countries, then they need you as a as a focal point if shit pop off for them. You know what I'm saying? So now, the military not just protecting, you know, this country by itself. Now it's protecting, Ukraine, then it's protecting Israel. It's where our military is can get overstretched because it could just be too many people of different countries that we're trying to protect, and that can cause, internal conflict and causes society to collapse, right? So most of us don't really think about that, you know what I'm saying? Because that's, if you see it, our hands are in all these different pots, because of all the, the corruption and the secrecy and us owing money and stuff like that. So now we got to play big brother to everybody, and and that shit ain't gonna last, you know. Uh, and then you got and social, political and social. We talking about corruption and inequality. Um, it just, like I said, I always talk about the 1% and the 99%. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, it's not equal by any means. It's the disproportional balance of wealth around the world, and especially in the United States. You got the oligarchs and elites. They're sitting there. They're hauling in a bunch of money. They're coming up with fake. They're coming up with fake ideas like inflation and tariffs to make you work harder, so that way you can continue to push the envelope. So that way they could pocket up all the money, and many people still don't see that. But once they do see it, like I said, those type of things, they kind of stir up internal conflict, and at some point become like a civil war type of situation. That's why I said, if you guys ever watch the movie Civil War, it really touches on some of those nuances. When they make these Hollywood movies, they're making it as a projection, as something that's going to happen towards the future. And in some Hollywood movies, it actually has happened. You talk about the Terminator, and you talk about I Robot. Those movies actually came to, not the Terminator exactly, but when we talk about robotics and technology, look where we at. You know what I'm saying? So, that's something to keep an eye out for, right? Talk about oppression and revolt. A lot of people are being, oppressed. Like, you can't work a job for 40 years and not have no fucking money. You can't work a job for 15 years and not have no economic equality. How you gonna work a job for 15 years and you still fucking struggling and behind? That don't mean that you go get another job. It just means that the first one don't work. You know what I'm saying? So, the way this system is designed to keep you down. It's designed to keep you down no matter what somebody tell you about investing and saving. And this system was designed to keep you down. You just need to go back, do your research in history, and look at how shit is being ran. And if it's being ran exactly the same way as it was before, that just shows you that it's going in the wrong direction. If that empire wind up collapsing, you understand what I'm saying? So, oppression and revolt is something that you got to keep an eye out for, right? Then we talk about the economic collapse, debt. debt and inflation. Like I said, they come out with these monetary definitions that keep you puzzled to think that that you just got to keep working extremely hard um in order to survive their definitive terms. You know, I mean, all the inflation actually comes from printing out too much money, right? If you guys don't know what that is, it's because it's a inequality in the money that we have, versus um it's the inequality versus the money that we have versus the money that's circulated within the country. So if there's an overflow of dollars and they can continue to make these dollars, then the prices on all the goods and the services will continue to go up no matter what. You understand what I'm saying? And that's where we at right now. Every time they turn on that money printer over in DC, our goods and our services, they start to shoot up. And we are $37 trillion in debt in this country. So you think they're gonna stop turning off that money printer? I don't think so. Okay. So also, the next topic is cutting off trade networks, right? When we talk about our trades and goods and how we, do business with countries, like India and Dubai and all those different countries where we have oil and resources. If those if those areas get cut off from us doing business, that could also cause a societal collapse because in hindsight we all kind of need each other in retrospect in order to run our country smoothly, right? Even in you know, ancient Egypt had all the resources in the world, really, but at some point they always like extended um an invitation for other small societies to come in and help them, fight. You know what I'm saying? Like they reached out to the Kushites. The Kushites came and they helped I believe it was that to get um if that's was that Persia? No, I believe the Kushites helped get the Hyksos asses up out of there because the Hyksos, they are supposed to have came and helped ancient Egypt, and when they did, they got enemies out of ancient Egypt, and then they asses wanted to stay because they seen how beautiful it was, Giza Plateau and all of those beautiful things at that time. The Hyksos, they was like, well, fuck, man, shit, we got y'all enemies out. Shit, we probably could fuck y'all up and keep the place. You know what I'm saying? So then we had to invite the Kushites, which was a neighboring Black African society that already had the spirituality and the connection already through the towns. So they came over, whooped the Hyksos ass, get them up out of there. You know what I'm saying? And they became the rulers of the dynasty. But at the same time, I don't wanna leave off my point. You know what I'm saying? So those things happen, right? So cultural ideology, we talk about religious, shifts. For as long as we can remember, we've been always talking about Christianity, Catholic, Islam. At some point, man, people are gonna get a idea on how all that stuff works. I've already understood. I'm far advanced already, but those things will culturally divide people. Could it cause a societal collapse? I don't believe at this time it'd be strong enough. I think the other reasons that we touched on would be more stronger, but it will cause a cultural divide. You know what I'm saying? Because that's how much of a spell that religion got on people. You know what I mean? And it's been developed, thousands of years ago. I can get into that on another video. And just forgetting critical knowledge is the last bullet point. Forgetting critical knowledge, like your ancient past and history. If you don't know nothing about that, you ain't gonna know where you're going. And if things that come about arise, you ain't gonna know how to handle it because you don't have any reference on what you're looking at. And that's why I say it's important that you guys go back and do your ancient history so you can A, know where you came from and your people, and B, know when situations arise which you're looking forward to going through in the future. So that's it. That's all. I said this is a new small mini series. So if you like what you heard, like and subscribe. And remember, troops in session. All right, peace.